But the thing is, when you're faced with this and it's your livelihood, the panic sets in. And they're trying to catch, they might send out 1,000 of these things. And if they just get one or two people that are so panicked that they just click that link or, send the gift card as soon as possible, the gift card codes, that's the only person they need, right? 1 out of 1,000.
Welcome to Crime News Insider, presented by the San Diego Deputy DAs Association. We are real prosecutors with decades of experience and are here to give you our inside take on the latest crime news. Here are your hosts, Deputy DAs Lori Hoff and Jorge Del Portillo. Today, we're going to talk about ransomware and internet scams. This comes after recently here in San Diego, Scripps Health was a victim of a ransomware attack, where now for the past 4 weeks, they have been under attack or still recovering from the attack of a cyber ransomware. And all the patients had to reschedule appointments, had trouble getting their blood work and scheduling procedures. And then also in the news, there was the Colonial Pipeline attack, which got national news. And here to talk with us today is Deputy District Attorney Ryan Carkenny. Deputy District Attorney Ryan Carkenny is a member of the Computer and Technology Crimes High-Tech Task Force, otherwise known as the CATCH team. In this assignment, Ryan handles a variety of cases involving internet and cyber crime, as well as when technology is used as an instrumentality of the crime. He's been a deputy DA with the San Diego DA's office since 2009, and over the course of his career, he's handled a wide variety of cases: murder, torture, robbery, you name it. Ryan has received extensive training in the area of digital forensics, digital evidence, and has attended the National Computer Forensics Institute as well. Ryan, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me today.
Welcome, Ryan.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Oh, you know what? Before we start, I wanted to say congratulations to Lori Hoff, our co-host here, who was just recently promoted to be the assistant chief of the gang unit. Congratulations.
Thanks. Don't tell people that, though.
I know. Well, I could always edit this.
That's
I could always edit this out later.
Congratulations. That is cool.
Congratulations for anyone that's listening out there. This is a big deal. Obviously, San Diego County is the DA's office is like second biggest DA's office in California, one of the biggest offices in the nation. So excellent promotion, excellent person to lead the gang unit. So congratulations, Lori.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So Ryan, we hear in the news here about Scripps Health, they're under attack. And then we hear in the news about the Colonial Pipeline attack. What is a ransomware attack?
Yeah, so ransomware is basically a type of malware that gets installed on a victim's system. And what it does is once it's in the system, it encrypts all of their files. So you're talking about documents, photos, videos. Imagine losing all your family photos, by the way, right? Because that's what's at stake here for the individual user, right? So it encrypts all their files. And then the bad actor demands a ransom in order to unlock or decrypt the files. That's what ransomware is in a nutshell. So
in these cases, we're seeing big companies being attacked. I mean, Scripps Health and Colonial Pipeline. Do you think that these attackers are like lone wolves? Or are they working together? Are they United States attackers or out of the US? How do we know anything at this point? Yeah, it's a little bit of everything. Generally, for the bigger ones, you're not going to see a lone wolf, as you put it, or an individual hacker, because it's such a large hack and it's complicated. It's so complicated that multiple individuals are generally working together when it comes to something the size of like a Colonial Pipeline or Scripps. They're normally going to be working in, you'd call it a cyber gang or a hacking crew, depending on how you want to phrase it. And it's funny because just before recording, I was doing a little more research and looking at the news. I don't know if you guys saw that JBS was just reported to be a victim of hacking as well. I'm not sure if it's ransomware or some other sort of hack, but they're actually the largest meat supplier to the United States. They supply 1/5 of all meat. So we're going to see some meat shortages, just like we saw the gasoline shortages pretty soon, I'm sure.
And now the Colonial Pipeline, they've recovered and Scripps Health has not. Still to this day, they're still recovering here. Why has Colonial Pipeline recovered so quickly and Scripps Health hasn't?
So Colonial Pipeline made a decision that is generally what law enforcement does not recommend and what some people actually question as being unethical, and that's paying the ransom. So at this juncture, it looks like it's worked out for them. The reports are coming out that Colonial paid about $4.4 million in the ransom. And apparently the hackers did what they say they were going to do, and they unlocked what they needed to unlock. But it's still under investigation right now with Scripps. It's still an ongoing investigation being handled by the FBI. But I would assume at this point that Scripps has not paid the ransom, and that's why they're still offline.
When you talk about 4.4 million, in what currency is that?
Yeah, generally, we're going to be talking about cryptocurrency. Most specifically, you hear about Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is a big buzzword that we're hearing a lot in the media. Bitcoin is essentially a type of cryptocurrency, and it's the most popular cryptocurrency, probably the most well-known cryptocurrency. The last survey that I saw, though, said there was about 10,000 publicly known traded cryptocurrencies. So there are a lot of them out there, but Bitcoin is the biggest one. It's the most well-known.
Jorge claims that he never bought Bitcoin, but I don't know. I'm not sure about that. I think he might be a secret millionaire.
Yeah, well, I wish I had bought it way back then. But is an investment in internet fake money a good investment? I don't know. Why are they demanding Bitcoin? Why is that the currency that they choose?
Cryptocurrency is a form of currency that is decentralized. It's not regulated by any sort of government or any sort of central authority like traditional fiat currency is. Crypto, specifically, Bitcoin, it's based on a technology called the blockchain. And it actually has several uses. You may have heard the term NFTs in the media recently, non-fungible tokens. This is also based on blockchain technology. But the reason why they ask for Bitcoin, they ask for cryptocurrency, is because how anonymous a user can be when they receive this sort of funding. Compared to traditional fiat currency, cryptocurrency is much harder to trace. It provides a level of anonymity that traditional forms of payment, either in cash, credit, or check, that we typically haven't seen before.
And I'm jumping ahead a bit, but how does law enforcement, either federally or locally or working together, then try to respond to those types of cyber attacks?
Yeah, so it's difficult, and it is a cat and mouse game. It's always the technology's there, and the criminals try to get ahead, and then law enforcement tries to get ahead. Just as with traditional evidence where someone leaves a hair at a crime scene or a fingerprint at a crime scene, generally there's going to be some sort of digital evidence or digital breadcrumb left at a crime scene, whether it be access logs on the server side of things. The really good ones are going to be harder to catch. They're going to be harder to find. And what we're looking for is that one mistake where we can just keep following the breadcrumbs to where they go, where we're then looking at the ISPs or the internet service providers. What location does it go back to? Whose internet service provider is registered under that account? And again, I don't want to get too far in the weeds, but that's generally how they would do it.
So when people talk about the dark web, what are they referring to?
So the dark web or the deep web is a generic term that's used to describe what is basically an unindexed region of the internet. And that's where many illegal goods and services can be found. Generally, it has to be accessed with a special web browser called Tor, T-O-R, known as the Onion Router. And when I say unindexed portion of the region, it's something where if you do a Google search, it's not going to come up because Google is not indexing those web pages. There's a little bit more to the backside as far as the technology goes, but that's essentially what it is. It's an unindexed portion of the internet where general users, when they're searching, Yahoo, I don't think Ask Jeeves is a search engine anymore, right?
We all use Ask Jeeves. Highly underrated search engine.
But, so it's something that you're not going to be able to get to through a typical web browser like Mozilla, Firefox, Chrome, Microsoft Edge, and you're not going to be able to get there through traditional search engines like Google.
And I'm sure this is just websites mainly for criminal uses. Is that where they reside on the internet?
A lot of it is on the dark web, and that's especially when you get into actual drug sales online. You can go to a website, it looks like eBay, but it's on the dark web, and it's to purchase people's credit card information, right? So you just put in the little drop boxes or what's known as a combo box. Do you want an American Express or a Visa? Do you want one that's been an account established for 6 months or longer? Put it in, pay your money, and you get a credit card sent to your email address. So it's very, very easy.
I was just going to bring it back to our local San Diego and ask you, what types of things are we seeing here? What types of cases are you working here that you can tell us about?
Sure. So a broad range of technology-based crimes. And, that's the focus of what we're talking about today. So everything from social media stalkers to financial crimes that are facilitated using technology. And new scams are popping up all the time. But generally what we're seeing is maybe an old scam that is facilitated in a shiny new wrapper where the technology is being used to facilitate the crime, like I said. And especially coming out of, the sheltering in place with COVID-19, we saw a giant uptick in scams related to unemployment fraud, EDD fraud, right? We saw a massive uptick in stimulus fraud. So people tapping into other people's stimulus checks for the COVID relief. But the biggest ones that we're seeing lately are where the perpetrators pretend to be, from a legitimate source. So they're either pretending to be someone in the government or pretending to be a utility like SDG&E. And when it's on the government side, they're trying to convince you that you have to pay money to clear some sort of a warrant that's out for your arrest, or to resolve some sort of tax issue. Or like I said, if they're pretending to be utility, saying you have this massive unpaid bill that you have to pay just to keep the lights on. And, some cases I can't get into because they are still obviously ongoing, but I've had one where small business owner, and every minute that they're not open is money out of their pocket, right? So they got a call, is actually by email, saying that it was from SDG&E, and that if they didn't pay $5,000 immediately, they were going to be turning the power off that day. So of course, it sounds kind of, if you step back and look at it from a calm mind like we are right now, it's like, wait, let's look into this. Is this real or not, right? That doesn't, especially it didn't make sense because they were requesting the $5,000 payment in Home Depot gift cards, right? It's the gift card scam, which is kind of, the reason why they do that is because it's hard to track, just like cryptocurrency, like we were talking about earlier, to tie that into, right? But the thing is, when you're faced with this and it's your livelihood, the panic sets in. And they're trying to catch, they might send out 1,000 of these things. And if they just get one or two people that are so panicked that they just click that link or, send the gift card as soon as possible, the gift card codes, that's the only person they need, right? 1 out of 1,000. We are seeing a lot of the lottery scams as well. You'll get some sort of technology-based communication, whether it be a text message, email, saying that you've won the lottery. But guess what? You have to pay the taxes up front, right? So, you won $5 million, but you got to send us $200,000 to pay the taxes up front, and then we'll go ahead and cut you the check for the rest of it. And I had a victim that did that. And she lost her entire life savings because of it.
Oh man!
So it's
so
sad.
Devastating. It's so devastating. And do you find that there's a lot of elderly people who are maybe not as tech savvy that fall prey to this? Yeah, unfortunately, it's some of our most vulnerable members of our society that do fall victim to it. And but it doesn't have to be, right? It doesn't have to be. A lot of them are elders or people that fall into that category. But as I was telling Jorge when we were, prior to recording, I had a case, and it was actually a scheme, once we looked into it, that was popping up all over the state, where the victims were actually law firms and attorneys. So you can even have a more sophisticated, let's say, type of victim, and they still fall for it too. And in that scheme, they were getting emails through their website, right? You contact us for to evaluate your case. They were getting emails from, quote unquote, potential clients saying that there was some sort of employment case where they got fired inappropriately and they wanted to hire them because they wanted to settle. And I won't name any companies right now, but basically it was a big scam, and the attorneys were never even talking to their potential clients over the phone. They were being retained all digitally via email. Contracts were signed digital via email. They were talking to this quote unquote victim or client's employer all via email and settling with them via email. And then, so it was like, the easiest money they ever made. I was able to settle this bad firing case where someone was fired inappropriately in 2 days. And we settled for $100,000. I get 30% of that. But then the fake client was telling them, hey, I need the money right away. I know that they sent you the check already. Can you just forward me my 70% and you just keep the retainer fee? The attorneys were doing it. They were sending them the money, thinking that they were going to make the 30%, even though the check hadn't cleared yet. That is a really sophisticated scheme.
Yeah.
I mean,
they were having people physically deliver fake checks to the attorneys' offices that it was supposedly coming from the employer for the settlement of the lawsuit. And so they have the check in hand. I'll be, depositing this tomorrow. That's fine. I'll send my client their money. This was so easy. I'll send it.
Wow.
And then now the attorneys are out the money.
See,
and
even the smartest people in the best profession clearly
that attorneys are smart, right?
Yeah, clearly attorneys are
big mistake.
Part of the smartest people in our society, and even they fall for it. They fall for scams. I know it can be very embarrassing to admit you fell for a scam or anything, but I mean, we're all vulnerable to it. I almost clicked on a fake Ray-Ban sale. This was, I guess, going around the internet. I never heard about it. I saw it on Twitter. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like 50% off. And I clicked on it like an idiot. And my wife said, she's not an attorney, but smarter than I am. My wife said, like, wait a second, is this real? Is this fake? I'm like, oh yeah, let me look it up. And just a quick Google search dismissed that. It's like, oh. So Ryan, I just read an article that Summer Stephan wrote, who's our district attorney, talking about digital hygiene and how to protect ourselves. What is digital hygiene?
So digital hygiene is the generic term that I like to use for doing all the things that are going to keep you secure from things like ransomware. Okay. And when we think about, cyber crimes or cybersecurity, it's always about security versus convenience. If something is more secure, it's going to be less convenient. But on the flip side, if it's extremely convenient, it's going to be less secure. And so big example or easy example is on your cell phone, right? Your smartphone. It's really easy to not have a passcode on it, to just be able to swipe it open and unlock. Very convenient, but that's extremely insecure. If you lose that phone, your life's probably on there, right? You could have mobile payment stuff on there. So it's always about security versus convenience. And if you would allow me, I'm going to jump into some of my top tips to try to keep yourself safe at this time.
Yes, please do. Thank you.
Does that sound
Please
good?
jump right in.
I like to get the word out there,
Let me get my pen and paper here.
So the first line of defense is always going to be using strong and unique passwords or passcodes. Okay.
I hate that. I can't keep it all. Are you supposed to write all these passwords down?
Okay. So, that's one method, but of course, if someone gets a hold of that, then they have the keys to the kingdom, right? So you do have to be very safe. I recommend using a password manager, right? And there are lots of them out there. 1Password, LastPass, Dashlane, Chrome browser has it built in. Safari on Apple, if you're an all Apple user, from their phone to your computer, it's built in by default in their keychain, right? But I won't say which one I use so that people won't go looking for my stuff in there. But I do recommend doing that. And I use a password manager. Not only does it help you store your passwords and help you retrieve them when it's time to enter them, but it also helps you generate the passcode. You generally want to use long, at least 10 digits. I recommend 15 or above, actually. And you want to use upper and lower case. You want to use special characters, and you want it to be alphanumeric. And that's why a password manager is definitely key. The other thing, and I'll just mention briefly, is like on your home networks, your home Wi-Fi, you do want to make sure that it is, you have your SSID, which is the name of the network that's being broadcast out there. And then you have a passcode when someone sees it to try to log into your home Wi-Fi, right? You always want to make sure you have some password enabled. And the good thing is nowadays, most routers that get shipped by the ISPs to your house or that they send to you automatically have that on, right? And they have some kind of weird password. The other thing is using Wi-Fi in public, right? Everyone loves free Wi-Fi, going to Starbucks or McDonald's or whatever and being on there. And that's okay to use. But what I would highly recommend is I wouldn't be doing my banking while sitting in Starbucks on the open Wi-Fi, without using a VPN or something like that, because the guy next to you could be what we call shoulder surfing or digitally shoulder surfing. Look at all the traffic that's going over that unsecure Wi-Fi connection. So
wow.
You definitely want to avoid that. Jorge, no more working up your cases remotely from Starbucks.
You've blown Jorge's mind right now.
You've sufficiently made me paranoid never to use a Wi-Fi in public again.
But like I said, you can use it for simple, easy things, but I wouldn't be paying off my mortgage and things like that on there, or buying your cryptocurrency. I wouldn't do that either from the open Wi-Fi. You also want to investigate what's known as 2FA or two-factor authentication for services that offer it. And most of the big ones offer it now or will be offering it shortly. The big ones, Google, Apple, Microsoft, all offer two-factor authentication for signing into your accounts. And what two-factor authentication is there's two factors, right? One is something you know, and the other one is something you have. That's the second factor. The thing that you know is your password. The second factor is going to generally be sometimes a less secure ways. When you get those things text to your phone when you try to log in and they send you a one-time code to your phone.
Yeah.
Well,
right.
that's better than nothing. But let's say someone has stolen your phone, or let's say that someone has done a SIM swapping scam, which I won't get into the details right now, and they're intercepting all of your text messages. They're going to have your two-factor, your second factor, right? So companies like Google, Microsoft, Apple, they will have a unique code that's generated. So I won't go into all the details now, but you can look it up. It's called two-factor authentication. You also want to avoid suspicious websites, right? So I won't make any jokes here.
Rayban.com that I went to is
Ray-Ban spelled with an M because someone probably owns Ray-Ban.
Ray-Ban?
And they accidentally typed the M. Yeah, you look at it closely. You always want to look at it.
It's not called Ray-Ban? I'm just kidding.
When you're surfing, if you look at the web address in your web browser, you want to make sure that the sites that you're on, especially again, if you're doing something that involves financial transactions or things where you're entering sensitive information, you want to make sure it's a secure website. So you're going to see HTTPS in the browser address part of the window versus HTTP no S, right? You want to make sure that S is there. And most browsers, again, like Microsoft Edge, Chrome, Apple Safari, they'll have the color of the bar where you type in the web address will actually be different on a secure website than an insecure website, or you'll see a little lock icon on that website versus no lock icon. And those are all visual cues that are put on the website to let you know, hey, my data that I'm entering isn't being broadcasted in the clear. Someone can just intercept it versus it's being encrypted as it's being sent out. So if you're ever at what you think is your bank website, but it turns out it's not an HTTPS site, that's not your bank's website, or probably not unless you have a bad bank, I guess. But
that is very interesting.
Yeah,
I did not know that.
I didn't.
So lots of little helps.
I am glad we're recording this so I can listen to it again and again, because I'm like, VPN, 2FA, what is all this? So thank you for telling us this. And now I realize I probably have a ton of malware on my computer.
You wanted this to be a 2-hour podcast, right?
Yeah. Well, it sounds like it easily could be.
It could. I mean, it's obviously, to me, I find it a fascinating topic, and there's always more to discuss. Let me go through a couple more quick tips.
All right, quick tips to run it home.
Email is one of the biggest vectors of attack that we're seeing nowadays. Okay, so if you get emails from unknown senders, you want to always try to avoid clicking on or downloading attachments or clicking on links from unknown senders, right? That's called a blind link. You want to hover over it, see where the link's actually sending you, actually look at who sent the email, because sometimes it'll say, from Netflix. But if you expand that little box and see where it's coming from, it's not coming from Netflix at all. It's coming from someone at earthlink.com, right? So I think we've all gotten those. There's going to be telltale signs of a phishing email. Normally, we're going to see spelling mistakes, grammar mistakes. If it's coming from your bank, guess what? Don't click on the link. Actually, just open a new tab and go to the bank's website yourself to address the issue that they're emailing you about. Don't click on the link. Another big one that I want to talk about, and it's important, especially because we were talking about ransomware earlier. One of the biggest ways that you can protect yourself against ransomware, because again, remember, the leverage that they have is they have all your files encrypted and they're withholding them from you until you pay the ransom, right? Well, one of the things that you should be doing to be safe is routinely backing up your files, right? Because if you have a backup and they've basically encrypted all your files, guess what? Okay, I don't need to get back into those. I can just restore my whole system from the backup that I've been saving, right? Best practice is to have a local on-site backup. So you buy an extra hard drive. Both Windows and Mac OS have built-in utilities for backing up. And best case, again, if you're doing everything the right ways, to have an off-site backup as well. So some sort of a cloud backup solution like Carbonite, Backblaze, something like that. You always want to have your antivirus enabled and up to date on Windows. And then one of the other big thing is always keep your devices up to date. I know some people hate updating their phones. Hey, it slows it down. That's what they think that, they're just trying to slow down your device. But these devices in our pockets, these supercomputers, they need to be kept up to date, just like the computer that you have at your house. And the updates that are coming out often, I would say almost every time, carry security patches and vulnerability patches that are extremely important to keeping us safe.
Yeah, those are some great tips. Thank you.
Yeah, those are. Thank you so much, Ryan.
For sure. Of course.
Now I'm very scared. So that's probably a good thing. We should all be a little bit more, protective of this highly technological society that we live in now. So it's helpful information that you gave us. Thank you.
Fantastic. All right. Well, do you want to stick around and take our quiz where we look at the laws on the books?
Don't give them the option.
Don't give
it's a yes.
Well, you have to. There have to have more players
I'll
than
definitely do it. But I'll say I didn't cheat. We were having a discussion about cheating earlier, and I didn't look at anything.
So I got to say, each week we look at the laws on the books. 2 are real, 1 is fake, and I just make one up and ask my panel of experts to see if they could identify which one is the fake. I was looking at the laws on the books in various laws related to computer crimes, and most of them are the same. So I went a different route. I looked at case law here, and I selected 4 to see if you could find which one is the fake from the case law. Are you guys ready?
Well, you're getting trickier. You're getting a lot trickier. Jorge.
Case law, not even black letter law. It's case law.
You know, after I got swept by Lori and Leonard last time, I'm like, I got to up it up and do 4 and increase my chances of winning. Okay.
I'm sure it's all from our jurisdiction too, right? So it'll be things I should be familiar with.
Nope. Throughout the nation. All right. So item number 1. In Michigan, an appellate court upheld the trial court's admission of Facebook posts in a gang murder case, saying there's nothing on the face of the post that would suggest that they were faked or hacked. Item number 2. The Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals upheld the FBI's monitoring of a dark web child porn site called Playpen, saying the notion that innocent users would be on Playpen is hardly plausible. Item number 3. The Eighth Circuit Court of Appeals upheld the child pornography conviction of a defendant and said although the agent's laptop was infected with malware, the defendant, quote, presented no evidence in support of his theory that ransomware on the agent's laptop planted child pornography on the defendant's laptop. And finally, number 4, in Washington, an appellate court ruled that Bitcoin is a financial asset for purposes of state tax law, saying although virtual currencies such as Bitcoin do not generate cash flow for those who hold it, they are no different than other currencies, which are considered financial assets. So there's kind of long. Let me just summarize it again. Number 1, Michigan Facebook posts are admissible in evidence. When on the face of it, they didn't appear to be faked or hacked. Number 2, a child porn website on the dark web. Anyone that visits it basically is no innocent user. And number 3, another child porn website, or this defendant claimed that the agent's laptop infected his computer and planted the evidence on his computer. And number 4 was the Bitcoin is a financial asset under state tax law. Ryan, since you're our guest, you get to go first.
Okay. So I'm going to go with the last one as being the one that's not true. So in listening to all of them, I was trying to go back through the various hundreds of hours of research I've done in these areas and say what sounds familiar and what doesn't. So that's kind of the path that I was on. I have seen lots of cases, like starting with answer number 1, the Michigan one, where evidence is admissible because on its face, it was self-authenticating essentially, right? So I eliminated that one. Was the next one the Playpen?
Yes, one? the Playpen.
Yeah. This is the one that was my. I almost chose this as being the fake one, but because I was familiar with the Playpen case at one point, but I think they ultimately ruled that it was okay. C, I looked at that one and I said they were able to prove that up at trial, right? So they got their fair shot at saying there was malware on the computer that, but they didn't show that. It's plausible to me that the court would allow that in if they couldn't actually show any evidence that the malware planted this child pornography or the CP. So I was like, I think that sounds okay to me. And then the final one, just because cryptocurrency is so new, I think that would be the area where there'd be the least amount of either legislation and or legislating from the bench, if you will, on what does or does not count. So that's the one I went with. I'm going to go with D or 4 as the one that is not true.
Okay, so number 4 is fake. Lori, what do you think?
I will agree with our resident expert. Just based on his conversations with us about cryptocurrency, I cannot imagine that Bitcoin is now regulated under state law for financial asset purposes, but everything else seems like something we encounter every day, right? As prosecutors, as trial attorneys in the courtroom. And I could see courts making those types of findings on appeal in all of those cases. So I'm in agreement. Number 4, false.
Even if we're wrong, the assistant chief said so. So
we're all going down together.
You're all in. Okay, so let's start in order. Number 1, in Michigan, an appellate court upheld the admission of Facebook posts in a gang murder case, saying there's nothing on the face of the post that would suggest that they're faked or hacked. You guys all think this is real, and this one is real. You guys got it. However, I picked this one because it's the reasoning of it. It says there's nothing on the face of the post that would suggest that they were faked or hacked. Meaning, can you tell from the face of it that they were faked or hacked?
I think that the term self-authenticating was perfect, because
yes.
if it's in context, if it doesn't have it's something that only the poster would know, blah blah blah. That's the area where I've seen these type of posts being upheld as far as being admissible. So
for lawyers, we have to, what you're saying is self-authenticated. We have to authenticate any kind of document or piece of evidence or an exhibit into the record before we could admit it, and before a jury, we have to authenticate it. Lori, you're a gang prosecutor. Have you admitted Facebook posts before into evidence?
I can tell you that Facebook is such a key component of our prosecutions and cell phones now. Yeah. And basically, we, part of the authenticating aspect is that we're usually subpoenaing those records directly from Facebook, which I think helps in terms of authenticating the photographs and the messages. If I were trying to just print out a page and bring it into court and say, judge, take my word for it, that's different. But normally we do it through the proper channels, obtain the information properly, and we can, essentially figure out whose Facebook, account this is, and where there's certain identifying information that we all have, and we know this because we're on Facebook, that links it to us and makes it personal to us. So that's, we that's our bread and butter right there.
Yeah, exactly. And in this one, they talked about deep fakes, which are really good faked videos and faked photos. But I thought it was interesting because I don't believe, just on the face of looking at a Facebook post, you can't tell if it was hacked or faked. But it was interesting that they use that to justify. Obviously, we could go through the proper channels, like Lori was saying, subpoena Facebook, have the records submitted to the court, and then it's up to the jury to decide it's real, like who really posted it. But that is People v. Smith. It was a 2021 case out in Michigan, where a gang murderer shot the wrong person, and they were talking about the motive on Facebook. So good job, everyone. Let's go to number 3. The 8th Circuit Court of Appeals upheld the child pornography conviction of a defendant and said that although the laptops of the agent was infected with malware, the defendant, quote, presented no evidence in support of his theory that ransomware on the agent's laptop planted child pornography on the defendant's laptop. You guys all think this one is real, and this one is real. United States v. Juhic. I can't pronounce it. Juhic, 8th Circuit Court of Appeal 2020, which I thought was a pretty novel defense. They actually found ransomware on the agent's laptop that he used to connect to examine the evidence, and maybe he threw it out there and said, what if it infected my client's computer, is what the defense attorneys said. What do you guys think of that defense?
It sounds like a very typical defense, honestly. It's not surprising to me at all.
As someone that's not familiar with malware or ransomware until I hear from Ryan, I thought that was a pretty clever defense. Here we have proof that the agent's computer was infected, but nope, it did not work. So fortunately, the conviction was upheld. All right, so let's go to number 2. The 6th Circuit Court of Appeals upheld the FBI's monitoring of a dark web child porn website called Playpen, saying the notion that innocent users would be on Playpen is hardly plausible. You guys all think this one is real, and this one is real. You guys win. All right.
Make me sweat it till the very end.
This was all over the news. This was a recent case. That's why I picked it. I was hoping to trick you guys. But yeah, they basically said they monitored this dark website, and that the fact that innocent users would be on this website is hardly plausible. A lot of people don't know about the dark web. No one knows really how to get to it. Maybe Ryan does now we all do with Tor. But that one is real. And that means number 4 is the fake, where Washington upheld for purposes of state tax law that cryptocurrency is a financial asset. But do you know which entity did say that Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies are financial assets?
The IRS?
The SEC. And that's why I threw it out there. I thought it would catch you guys, but it did not. So congratulations. Now I am over 2 on this quiz. I think I'm going to have to stop doing this quiz.
No, don't. It makes me feel a little bit smarter.
Yes, exactly.
I was worried, I got to say. They were all... I know Washington State's going to want their cut soon enough. So
yes, exactly. So, maybe right. Washington's listening and they're going to issue a ruling pretty soon here, but it's basically the SEC ruled that way, not Washington. So it was true in that respect. I should have said the SEC and then you guys would have fell for it. Good job, everyone.
Thanks, Jorge. That was fun.
All right. Well, Ryan, thank you for joining us on the podcast. It was great. I think we learned a lot and I think we're all sufficiently secure now of how to proceed forward of protecting ourselves with password managers and not clicking on suspicious links. So thanks for joining us on the podcast.
Of course. You're welcome. Thanks for having me, guys. It was a pleasure.
Awesome.
Thank you, Ryan. It was a pleasure to do this again with you, Jorge.
Yes. Thank you, Lori.
And thank you to the 5 people out there that have listened so far.
Yes. Those 5 downloads are excellent. They include Lori, me, and my mom and dad. All right. Well, my name is Jorge Del Portillo.
I'm Lori Hoff.
And thank you so much for listening to the Crime News Insider Podcast. The views expressed on this podcast are solely of the speakers and do not reflect the views of the Deputy DA's Association nor the District Attorney. Questions and comments can be submitted through our website at sdddaa.net. Remember to follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Our Twitter handle is @SanDiegoDDAs. Thanks for listening and we'll see you next week.